United States has hopped on the hypocrisy train again, and it's attempting to ride it all the way to World War III. Now, the problem here is that if you look at the timeline of events, and if you compare that with the actual reports coming out of Syria, the so-called facts that the mainstream media is attempting to sell you just don't add up. And we're going to take a look at all of that here in this video. Now, it all started on Monday when the news was released that the Syrian government had regained control of Aleppo. This news is great for the Syrian government because it proves as a victory in their fight against ISIS, but it's not great for the United States government. The last few years, our government has been working overtime to overthrow President Bashar-al-Assad, and not only has that not worked, but this victory of theirs in Aleppo proves as another reason why the billions of dollars we have poured into arming and training moderate Syrian rebels hasn't worked. Not only have the programs that President Obama has pushed failed miserably, but a lot of those rebels have gone on to join and aid ISIS, and even that didn't work in overthrowing Assad. But it didn't stop there. Just when the United States government looked like it was failing in its attempt to demonize both Russia and Syria, the United Nations Human Rights Chief jumped in. He released a statement saying that, quote, Syrian pro-government forces have carried out at least 82 execution-style killings of civilians in Aleppo in recent days, including women and children. Now, of course, the United States mainstream media took that statement and ran with it, but what they didn't cover was a follow-up statement from the United Nations saying that they actually couldn't even verify the original statement, saying in a separate statement, quote, we hope profoundly that these reports are wrong or exaggerated, as the situation is extremely fluid and it is very challenging to verify reports.
How can the New York Times, I was reading it this morning, or how can Democracy Now!, which I was reading the other day, maintain until this day that this is a civil war in Syria? How can they maintain that the Syrian government is attacking civilians in Aleppo when every person that's coming out of these areas occupied by terrorists is saying the opposite?
Now, to be completely honest with you, in my research, I have not been able to find any reports that verify this claim that the Syrian government retook Aleppo and then executed nearly 100 people. What I have been able to find is a lot of evidence of the mainstream media taking a statement that wasn't even verified and running with it just because it made Syria and Russia look bad.
How did the United States sit back and do absolutely nothing as Assad was slaughtering his people and the Russians stepped in and joined in on that slaughter? Why did we do nothing?
Well, that's a question that's based on false premises,
no,
as far as I'm concerned.
No, it's not.
Now, here's the well, wait a minute. You want me to answer your question?
No, I just don't want you to lie on my television show.
The fact is that thousands of people have died in Syria as a result of this war. And yes, while that is because of the Syrian and Russian governments, it's also because of the United States government. There is no blameless side in this conflict. But as long as the U.S. government continues to demonize Russia and attempts to overthrow Assad, and as long as our mainstream media continues to push unverified propaganda, well, then they come together not to bring us closer to peace, but to bring us closer to an even greater war.